Lady Jeff Johnson got 3 things that you need to know other than my microphone. What up there, Jeff?
Listen, I got 3 things for you. The first thing is this investigation around the concert with Travis Scott is going to get deeper and deeper. And we're beginning to see, I think, some very interesting things that are happening. We know that there have been 8 lawsuits that have been filed. And those 8 lawsuits are in large part focusing on Travis Scott, Roc Nation, and even Drake. But what I'm hearing, and I've seen this reported both in CNN and by the Wall Street Journal, is they're starting to talk about the drugs that were at the concert. How many people were on them. They're doing toxicology reports of those that passed away and trying to determine if cause of death was in some way or form connected to illegal drugs. There's also a really interesting story that I keep hearing about a police officer saying that he was attempting to grab someone and got a prick on his neck, and that he was also in some way, shape, or form drugged. It hasn't say that specifically, but the drug that they had to use to revive him is a drug that they use for those that are in overdoses. And so you all know as well as I do that what they're trying to do at this point is determine blame in any way, shape, or form that they can. And they're going to attempt to find blame in any way they can. And that will be everything from drug use by those in the crowd, the inability or unwillingness for artists to try to calm the crowd, even though they have clearly said they didn't know what was going on in the crowd of 50,000 people before the ambulances showed up, which is not unreasonable. So, y'all, it's going to be interesting how both investigators and some involved are going to try to figure out who's to blame so they can try to figure out who's going to pay for it. Right. And the investigation, both on the toxicology side as well as looking at video and figuring out what happened from start to finish, is going to determine that. So there's a lot more to hear as we move forward. The second thing that I want to talk about is many of you know that the Ahmaud Arbery case is taking place, and yesterday the officer who was first on the scene testified, and there was so much troubling about this for me. So the officer, Minshew, attempted to explain why he did not provide any aid to Brother Arbery when he got on the scene. And when he got on the scene, you all know that the men that killed him were still pacing back and forth around the body when he got on the scene. He said he didn't provide aid because, one, he didn't know what was going on, and he was there by himself, and he was concerned about his own safety, which I find incredibly interesting.
Isn't that part of being a police officer?
But he didn't call for backup. He called for medical assistance, but he didn't call for backup. And then he said he went forward to try to ensure securing the integrity of the scene while Ahmaud Arbery was dying. And so
what is the integrity of the scene?
So you know as well as I do, Brad, that investigators are going to have to come on the scene, and they are going to be the ones that begin to pick up evidence to determine what all happened. So essentially, he's trying to secure the crime scene before Ahmaud Arbery is even dead.
So the crime wasn't even finished being...
Exactly.
Well, no, the crime was done, but the result of the crime was still in process. And listen, I'm not a police officer. I would love to hear from police officers. I know you have to secure the scene, but your job is also to save lives. And so he not only said that he was concerned about his own safety, he then said he wasn't skilled enough to provide aid, and that he didn't have anything in the car that could help secure bullet wounds. Now, listen, I live in Baltimore. And the University of Baltimore, Maryland does classes for people in West Baltimore about how to stop bleeding with a bullet wound. Now, if you can teach citizens how to take socks and how to have stuff that's on you and create tourniquets to stop bleeding, then you can't tell me that a police officer doesn't know what to do that. And if they're not, why are they not trained to do so?
You learned
Yeah,
that in
Jeff,
middle
I
school.
also read help.
online. Yeah, I also read online that the medical examiner said that the body was moved because someone tried to provide aid when she went to do the medical examination. I just read that this morning. Did you see anything about that?
No, and that definitely was not part of his testimony. So I don't know if that means that after EMS showed up,
Right.
after being called by the officer, that obviously they turned him over or began to before they could say that he was fully passed away, that they attempted to potentially provide aid. I don't know that, but I do know that as the officer first on the scene, he was talking about what he did and didn't do as a result of what he believed he either had the medical training to do. And so all of this speaks to what training are officers receiving, what training are officers using, how are officers assessing the value of life on the scene. Because I have enough friends and we know that had it not been Ahmaud Arbery and it would have been somebody else, would he have attempted to provide aid? And I'm not saying that he would or he wouldn't. I think it's incredibly problematic that this is what a officer did. And like I said, if there are officers listening, hit me on social media and tell me why this makes sense to you, because it doesn't make any sense to me. Those are three things I got for y'all. We know that this case is has a number of days ahead of us, and we're going to see more and see if there is any justice for this family in the midst of this case in particular. But I was perturbed on multiple levels about this testimony, and again, it says so much about what this brother was surrounded by people watching him die. And that, to me, is absolutely absurd and criminal. But we shall see, y'all. Hit me at Jeff's Nation or Men Thrive on all social media. Let me know what you think.